Love this beer. We just finished reviewing Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, which Alessandro is the original, or one of the originals, of the craft beer world. And so there's so much to unpack with this. When you say one of the original or the original craft beer, that holds a lot of weight, because craft beers, obviously, in the last 2-3 decades, have taken over a huge amount of the beer world's shelf space, right? I mean, the craft beers are so prominent now, but back when Mr. Ken Grossman started his brewery, Sierra Nevada, grew from brewing in his home as a home brewer and expanded his operations to become one of the original craft brewers. He took a lot of really interesting first steps, right? He did. And had a little bit some bumps along the way. So what can you tell us about how this brewery got started and some things that make it significant as a beer pioneer?
That's describing a beer pioneer, really, because, he started his brewery in a day and age when, it was all about like macro
all about the macro,
right? Like, so even if, the scale as home brewer was something that, it was a passion and something that you could find in recipes and some sort of like community that was able to support you, and answer your question. And let's not forget that back then, like, it was not like today. You couldn't just go on Google and then search like, how do I do this, and find the how-to video, right? Like,
exactly. Yeah. You can't just Google how to make an amazing pale ale.
Exactly. First of all, like the market was mostly dominated by lagers. So this was also a style that didn't really existed, that the public was not like very familiar with.
Not in North America, at least. Right?
Exactly. Like here in North America. Just that itself, like, took like a first like step. But then going and actually starting a business, means also like you need to have the proper equipment. And the equipment, and nowadays, like as a small brewery, you can easily access and purchase. There's companies that produces in different scales, but like back then, he had to build himself the equipment because it didn't exist. So he had to go and find old equipment that was used in in dairy farm, and readjust it, like and weld things, like, and make them equipment. Make them work to his purpose, like to have containers that were bigger than home brewers, like big enough to, sustain a production that could then like, supply stores and so on. Like, so there's a lot of elements, including also just like getting the ingredients, when quantities sold for big microbreweries were like, pallets and pallets and pallets. Like when you are as a small brewer, you're just going like, hey, I just need maybe a couple of bags now of hops and, a small truckload of malt, like, like that can become an issue.
Exactly. That's interesting that it sort of brought the pale ale style, pushed that and introduced it to the market, where I think in places like the UK, especially, this style was really, really renowned. And so we talked about in the review how they make use of Cascade hops as well. Mm-hmm. And they were one of the beers to really bring that forward to the market, which is really interesting. So there were some other breweries that were coming to prominence around the same time, such as Anchor Steam. Would you say that they are necessarily the original? Would you say that maybe along with Anchor Steam, they sort of represent a grouping of beers, a team of craft breweries that sort of came along and pushed the limits of what beer would be in the mainstream?
I would definitely say so. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Anchor Brewing Company, like was a little bit earlier than them, like as far as like when they started, when they became part of that movement. And one that I would definitely mention also that is no longer in existence is New Albion. That it's one that definitely like inspired also Mr. Ken Grossman, like when he started his brewery. But definitely, like I would put them in the same capacity. I would say though, like that Sierra Nevada had this extra challenge that they started from scratch, so he had to really build the equipment from having nothing. So that's always something that I think adds this extra little point.
Yes, it totally does. And especially in a time where craft breweries, at least on this scale, were not a thing, to start from a home brewer and to procure all the equipment and then to go through, like you told an amazing story about how when he went to go buy, was it the hops or was it the malts?
No, the malt, I think, like, at the time he had like this truck that he was using for different reasons, right? Like, and so he goes to purchase the malt, like, and he calculates how much he needs for the production of the beer. beer for a month or whatever, like he had decided like to purchase with the money he had available. And he goes to this malting house, like the closest one he could get to. They're located in Chico, California, which was kind of like far away. So he drives all the way there, like, and gets there, and then he gets under the, those big giant containers where they're, unloading the malt, like for normally like, trucks that are then going to this microbreweries. And he just, gets the quantity that he's paid for, and it's just like a quick like movement of the lever, like and whoop, and it's just like almost like a second, and it's just filling his truck completely to the point that it's almost like he can't move it,
touching the road.
Yeah, touching the road. So he's asking like, can we get some off? And they're telling him, no, sorry, like you got it, like we're not going to put it back, like so it's yours. So he had to drive all the way back home, like almost like not being sure if he could make it, but he did. Like, and so this just one of the many challenges that made
I love it.
This beer.
It's such an amazing beer legend, and this man, Ken Grossman, just like the strides that he made in the beer industry to produce this and to be one of the original craft brewers, this is such an inspirational story, and it makes for such a cool legend leading into trying this beer for the first time. If you haven't tried it before, I definitely recommend picking up a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale and just understanding all the struggles and the innovation that went into it. Producing this in the U.S. at the time just makes it all that more special. Here's everybody. Let us know down below. Have you tried Sierra Nevada before? What do you think of their Pale Ale? Do you prefer any of their other beers aside from the Pale Ale? Let us know down below what you think. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers.